You cannot hide in a crowd if you're bringing value to difficult topics, difficult discussions, difficult decisions. The person that wants to say what's broken and what's wrong and what's not working and what the problems are, and I just think that we should, are a dime a dozen. But the person that says, I'm going to try to bring ideas, solutions, clarity, wisdom, your influence will grow because there's just not many people who do that.
Hey friends, welcome to the LeadingSmart podcast. My name is Tim Stevens, and this week joined again by David Whiting, who was with us last week as well. And David is a good friend, and we work together at LeadingSmart, have known each other for years. David, we probably, what would you say, text, talk, or Marco each other at least every day?
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yep.
We both like Marco. I like it, which is like a video messaging system if you're not familiar with it, Marco Polo. I like it because I don't have to have any awkward small talk. I can just say something and then hit stop. And then you say something and then you hit stop.
I
know.
like it because you can listen to it at 2 times the speed, unlike an iMessage audio. Like if someone's
That's
leaving me a
true.
long message, I use it with a lot of my teammates. And if someone's leaving a long message, it's nice to go fast and get through it. But
Did you know that in iMessage audio, you can now listen to it in double speed?
life changer. That's a game changer.
You can't in Google Chat yet, but you can in iMessage. I'll show you after the episode.
Total game changer.
Share this detail with you. So last week we talked about this whole idea of owning influence and gaining influence, and the fact that we have people on our staffs, on our teams that just wish they had a little bit more influence. They wish they had a seat at the table. They wish they feel. Let me see if I got it right, David. Underappreciated, overlooked, underpaid, or overworked.
Yeah, I think you got them all. I say it in a different way, so it sounded weird, but I'm sure that was it. Underappreciated, overworked, underpaid, overlooked.
Yeah. And so we have people on our staff that feel that way, whether it's accurate or not. That's what they feel and that's their sense. And so if you didn't catch last week's episode, David talked through 10 different ways that are 1,000% in your control and all of our control, in which we can gain influence by how we behave and act and how we present ourselves and carry ourselves. So go back and listen to that if you haven't. This is part 2 of that conversation. And today we are talking about, and I'm going to tee you up, David. What is it?
Competencies.
Competencies.
We're talking about
right.
competency issues. So we had character issues that are under your control and competency issues that are not totally under your control. Like you have some limits with competency issues.
Because we're not all fantastic at everything, even though we'd like to think we are.
That's right. Yes.
You used to watch me play basketball in 4th grade. You know I'm not great at everything.
That's why you became the manager, Tim, and you were a great manager of our basketball team.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So yeah, if someone's a strategic worker, if someone's a strategic thinker, or they're not a strategic thinker and they wish they were, well, they need to lean into being a great worker, a competent manager, but they're never going to be that strategic thinker, and that's okay. And they need to embrace and be the best worker or the greatest manager of people or a team they can be. They'll gain influence even if they're not the top level of influence because they're not strategic. So just influence isn't simply defined by a position, but if you try to gain influence outside of your strengths, you're never going to gain it as much as you want to because you're just not as good at it as others. And that's okay. So I think I had 10 character issues. I came up with 7 competency issues to consider that I shared with our team. If you want to grow in influence, then here's 7 competency issues to consider.
Okay, let's jump into them.
All right. Number 1 is win at your assignment. Do your job well. Results build trust. Results build trust. And the more you succeed at what you're doing, the more trust and influence you gain with others. The more you're directly contributing to the mission of the church, the more influence you have. And again, your task is limited here. None of us can do everything well, and that's okay. But doing everything you can to succeed at what your job is and fulfilling the mission, you'll gain more influence. Because success can be based on giftedness, but other staff will likely feel you aren't very competent if you're not winning, if you don't have a track record of success. It hurts your influence, hurts what they think your competency is. So whatever you do have, then win at that assignment. Because results build trust.
That's good. And you may be, people may be listening to this, or you may have someone on your team that they're just in the wrong seat. And so I would say win at the assignment you have, and also have conversations about, man, I'd love an opportunity to do this over here, or I'd love to apply for this role that's opening up over there, while you're doing the best at the assignment you've been given.
There's an assignment I've done for you, Tim, in the last year that someone was just in the wrong seat, but because his character was so high, the lead pastor is saying, I just got to find the right spot for this person because they can't leave the team. They make us better. And now I think, we did some restructuring of some things, and I think they found the right position for him. But yeah, he wasn't winning at managing a large team, but he was so valuable in his character that so win it, whatever assignment you have, win at it. And if you can't win at it, you should open the discussion, not someone else.
Yeah, that's good. That's great.
Second one is make it better. Don't settle for good enough if improvement is possible. And Tim, I know, I've heard you tell the story of Willow, that the famous statement that Bill made popular, excellence honors God and inspires people, at Willow, it almost became an expectation of excellence that wasn't reasonable to fulfill. So I'm not talking about
weaponized.
that. Yeah, weaponized. That's what it was. Yeah. And this is not as important to some leaders as others. Since Holly's not here, I'll talk about one of her heroes. Seth Godin just talks about ship it. There comes a point that you say, all right, that is good enough, ship it. But I bet Seth would also say, let's keep making it better, but we can't just sit on it forever. But so find out if that's most important. For me, making it better is really important. So I made this list about how to build influence with me. But if it's not for your culture, that's okay. The better something's done, the more influence someone gains. If it's a shrug the shoulders, it's good enough, we're fine. Man, that could, to some of us that like things to be done, to always be increasing in excellence or in it growing and making it better, then those are hard words to hear. That's fine, don't worry about it. But the more things of yours that have to be propped up by others, or other people better come through, or you're not going to succeed, then your influence is going to be limited. If something succeeds because no one noticed, or because other people keep stepping in to make sure it didn't fall, then that's not the way you do it with excellence. However, if you have the ability to, I hired an administrator for myself that I pay. No one else pays this person. I pay. Why? Because I know there's things that I won't do as well without their help. And so that's good. You got a teammate. You have in the church world, you have a associate working with you, or you have an executive, assistant, or an admin assistant. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're helping you make it better in areas you might not be as good at. But if you can't keep making it better, your influence is going to be capped.
And in the church world, unlike, corporate or other industries, we have something they don't have, which is volunteers. And so we really don't have an excuse to say, the church won't hire someone to help me make this thing better. We can just go tap volunteers' shoulders, pull them in, and say, help me make this better.
Yeah, I agree. One of my personal pet peeves is too strong. That's not true. I would say it's one of the weaknesses of today's mega church is we have enough money that we just hire everything.
That's right.
Ephesians 2 says, equip God's people to do the work of the ministry. Okay, so how many volunteers are being equipped to do something beyond show up once a month to serve in the nursery as a greeter? That's not equipping God's people to do the work of the ministry. And so, yes, there should never be an excuse of, I have a list, I think you've heard me make it, of how I decide raises. And one of them is, how many volunteers are you engaged with, and how are you working yourself out of jobs using volunteers? Yep. And so, yes, that your limits of making it better, you have people all over the place that have gifts that they use at work all the time, and they're not using them yet for the kingdom, and you can help them use them.
That's right. That's fantastic. All right. So we have win at your assignment and make it better. What's number 3?
And number 3 is add value in the room. Bring ideas, bring solutions, bring clarity, bring wisdom. Don't just bring problems and opinions. This is the easiest way to get invited to influential meetings, having something worthwhile to say and having solutions and ideas, not just criticisms and rebuttals of everyone else's ideas. You cannot hide in the crowd. you cannot hide in a crowd if you're bringing value to difficult topics, difficult discussions, difficult decisions. And if you help leaders, your leaders think of solutions, you'll be more and more gaining influence. Now, also, you have to be sure not to dominate team discussions, but the person that wants to say what's broken and what's wrong and what's not working and what the problems are, and I just think that we should, are a dime a dozen. But the person that says, I'm going to try to bring ideas, solutions, clarity, wisdom, your influence will grow because there's just not many people who do that. Now, again, there's limited. You might not have value. You may not have an idea or a solution for that particular thing. Shut up. Don't offer a useless idea. And sometimes they think, oh, I want to be influential, so I'm just going to speak. Man, it's okay. No one's going to have a solution for everything, but do your best to add, how can I add value to this discussion right now? And if you do, you add value in the room. But if you're just the guy that always says what's wrong and shows problems, yeah, you don't gain influence.
I had a boss when I was 25 or 6, pull me aside, and I'd been pulled into new rooms that I'd never been in before, these executive rooms. And I remember after my 3rd or 4th, 5th week, whatever, I'd been there 3 or 4 or 5 times. And my boss pulled me aside and he said, hey, Tim, like if you and I always have the same exact thoughts, then one of us isn't necessary. And just so you know, I'm not going anywhere. And so I thought, okay, he wants me to speak up a little bit more and add some value. So it's a good lesson.
That's great. I love that. The fourth one is think ahead. Don't just manage what you're assigned. Think about what's next. And this, again, there's limits to this competency. Not everyone can think as strategically and think ahead, and that's okay. But the wiser you are and the more strategic you are, the more likely you'll be invited into circles of influence. A manager manages the task they were given. That's great. But a leader works ahead on the task and thinks of what's going to be needed next. Leaders have this intuition of just knowing what the next thing is and what's going to be needed. And if you exercise that, there's a lot of competency limits here, but when you exercise that, you gain influence. When others give you ideas, that's great, but you shouldn't always be dependent on other people of what am I supposed to do next? What should be next? If you're always dependent on someone else to tell you what's next, then you may be a very good worker, very good manager, but you're not a leader, and that's going to limit your influence. Some might call this even self-starter. You don't need to be micromanaged because you can figure out what to do next, where to go, and how to get there. But just think ahead. What's coming around the corner, and start going after it before that problem surfaces.
I had a lead pastor tell me recently, he was talking about his executive team. And he just said, I said, what's the criteria for someone, your primary criteria for someone sitting at this level? And he said, everyone at this level has to be able to see around corners because It's not just what's in front of them. It's what's coming next that we can't see yet. And if they can't do that at this level, they're probably not right for this level.
And the larger the church, the problems that are immediate and right in front of you, you're counting on people in the organization taking care of that. The larger the church, the more you're definitely thinking around corners to the next problem. Right.
Good.
And number 5 is succeed with volunteers. The church is a volunteer organization from a couple different avenues. One, no church has enough income to use all paid staff to do everything, although some churches sure try. On weekends without volunteers, who would do your kids ministry, student ministry, tech ministry, first impressions, worship, you name it. If we only had staff, it wouldn't work. Second, the church is a volunteer organization because of the biblical command, Ephesians 4. It's our job to prepare God's people for the work of the ministry. And if you're doing your ministry assignment without volunteers, then you're failing. And that does not build influence with others in the church world. One of my least favorite phrases is, well, I just can't get people to whatever. Well, That's a leadership issue. It's amazing. You think your people, whoever your people are unique. It's not. You have a difficult task, a big change to lead through, or you need to recruit 20 people. If you can't do that, then likely the problem isn't the difficult task. It's not big change or people unwilling to serve. It's influence. John Maxwell defines leadership as influence. The more you're succeeding with volunteers, the more influence you're building with the church and with the staff and with leaders, with the lead pastor, with the XP, with everybody. But if you have to do it all, then maybe it makes you feel more important, or you just don't know how to lead volunteers, your influence is going to be limited in the organization.
I think that's really good. And I've talked to some people who they would be low on the galvanizing scale as far as like, they're not a magnetic person. It's really hard for them to like put a team together. These are staff people I'm talking about. And the guy I was talking to like overcame it. He found he at least had enough galvanizing to galvanize a galvanizer. And he found someone that was on his volunteer team and said, all I need you to do is like build my team and make my team feel great and encouraged and loved. And I'll provide the leadership if you can provide the galvanizing. And that's a way to get at it too. Cause again, you got to succeed with volunteers at this level.
That's good. That's good. The sixth one is bring internal drive. Let your energy, ownership, initiative move things forward. And this is where I say that maybe to some that sounds like a character issue of, okay, that's under your control, but not really. I think there's people that have bigger internal drives than others. There are people that have this inexplicable drive that's as natural to them as breathing. And it doesn't necessarily mean you work 80 hours a week. It just means I have to make a difference, or I have to make this work. And they put their entire heart and mind, it's infused with this drive. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to make it grow. Their relationships grow. Their department grows. They grow as people. Whatever project they're involved in, it grows. The groups they work with grow. The ministries they work grow. They just can't help it. It's this internal drive. And those who have that internal drive to see things around them grow, they have incredible influence. And some people don't have that drive, or they have it for something. They have it for golf or a sports team or food or binging Netflix. But the more that's directed towards their ministry and their job, they will grow in influence. Again, it doesn't mean working an incredible amount of hours. It just means this insatiable desire to, this has to work. I'm going to make this happen.
I think it's what Patrick Lencioni talks in the Ideal Team Player. He's, the three traits, one of them is hungry. And This one seems like this is hungry. This is like, man, I want to succeed. I want to do better. I want to grow. I want to learn. Like you're internally driven towards that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm interviewing for a position, not me for a job, but someone else to join our team. And I'm talking about that I'm looking for, they have this internal drive to help the organization succeed. They love what we do. They're not simply trying to get an income for themselves. They're saying, I want Generosity to succeed and be able to help churches and pastors. And I listen for that internal drive. It gains influence fast.
It's good. All right. We got one more.
Well, this is it. Represent well. Speak for the church, the mission, and the leadership with care and wisdom. And in the characters, as I talked about, be reasonably loyal, but this is doing it with incredible wisdom and care. There are going to be many times when you're speaking for your lead pastor, your XP, the board, the elders, the leadership organization, or the church as a whole, and you have to handle those times carefully. And you want others in the church to completely trust how you're going to handle someone who has a question, someone who asks permission for someone who complains about the church or a leader, someone who has to be corrected and redirected. And learning how to represent the church and its leaders will gain a lot of trust and a lot of influence. And this is when I think about the church world, if you are a leader, if people on your staff are true leaders, they probably don't agree with every point of theology at your church. But they have to know how to speak up for the theology of the church. Whether, let's say eschatology, maybe your church takes a strong position on eschatology that maybe you don't share. Well, there's a way to do that without saying, oh yeah, I don't agree with the eschatology around here either. But you could say, use wisdom and discretion and say, do you know how many godly, wise people don't see this eye to eye? And every church, when it comes to, are we waiting for post-millennial? Are things getting better and better? Or are we pre-millennial and we shouldn't expect it to get better? You have to decide, just kind of baptism. You might see both viewpoints, but every church has to take some kind of position. And if you expect to agree with every decision, every direction, and even every secondary point of theology, You better be able to handle those moments. And maybe theology isn't the best way to talk about it, but it's a decision we're making. We're moving to Saturday night services, and you think it's a terrible idea. Well, no one should know that outside of the room. Here's why this decision was made. And it's okay that you disagreed with it, but you're able to say, man, this was debated. And man, I don't even think everybody is on the full same position, but this is the best for us right now. Knowing how to represent the church and its leaders well gains so much influence. And I put this under the competencies because you have to be skilled at thinking on your feet or it feels phony. And so you might have a limit of being able to do that well, but you do that well, you'll grow in influence.
I love it. And so just to recap, these things we've been talking about last week on last week's podcast and on this week is, I think, very tangible handles on how do you help your staff gain influence when they want a seat at the table, they want more influence, they want to be able to affect or influence decisions in some way. And these are very tangible things. And so I'd encourage you either play these videos. If you're listening to it on podcast, you'll find them on YouTube as well. So play the video for a staff meeting and then just create some conversation, some discussion questions around it, or just take notes and then just teach it yourself. But I think these things will really be significantly helpful as we're helping our team grow in their leadership and develop in their influence. So I mentioned this last week, but David and I will be at all the gatherings this coming year, and you'll find those on LeadingSmart.com and look for the gatherings tab at the top, and we would be glad to hang out with you there. And these are really fun times where you're with 15 to 30 other leaders, and you really get to grow in your influence and grow in your network, as well as lots of soft time where you just get to hang out and have conversations about life and have really great food and fun experiences. So if that's of interest to you, check it out. We'd love you to sign up. David, I think before I go, I should tell Daisy hi. I can hear her in the background.
Yeah, she's trying to get in the house now. She's probably looking for Jonesy because Daisy and Jonesy, when we both worked at Vanderbloemen, Jonesy's your golden noodle.
Yep.
And they played together for hours and hours. And I still think they usually when I say Jonesy, her head turns a little bit, even though it's been years since she's seen Jonesy.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get them back together sometime. Yeah. Which means you got to bring
I would just say,
to Chicago.
No, wait a minute. Why does it always work out that way? I don't quite. Sue won't put Daisy below on the bottom of a plane. She wants to train her to be an emotional support animal, and Daisy will never be an emotional support animal. It just doesn't work.
That's fair.
I would say, Tim, the final thought I have is, well, two. One is, if my list is helpful, great, but you probably have your own list and there's things. But then the second thing I would say is what I want people to do is focus on their character and grow in your competencies. Focus on your character, grow in your competencies. You do that, then you will grow in influence. And you want to grow in influence because you love your church. You love what you do. Recognize your competencies, perfect your character. Recognize your competency limits, perfect your character. And you'll have great influence.
Love it. That's great. And we will land it there. See you all next week.